Have you ever wondered why some people can make others think about them endlessly, almost as if they are unforgettable, while others fade into the background without a second thought? Have you noticed how some connections spark instantly, leaving a mark that lingers while others barely leave a trace? What if I told you that there's one simple counterintuitive word that can make him addicted to your presence, not in a superficial way, but in a deep, magnetic, undeniable way? And what if this word isn't what you think it is? Not something flashy, not something obvious, not something that screams, "Look at me." It's subtle. It's powerful. It taps directly into human psychology in a way that most people overlook completely. Imagine this. Every interaction you have could hold a quiet, invisible power. Every message, every glance, every word you speak could leave a lasting impression that draws him closer, naturally, almost effortlessly. But here's the problem. Most people approach connection the wrong way. They try to impress, to perform, to act as if their value depends on attention or approval. And psychology shows us something remarkable. When we try too hard to be seen, we often become invisible. The human mind craves authenticity, mystery, and significance. It's wired to respond to presence that feels real, meaningful, and rare. The most magnetic people are those who understand this invisible law of attraction, whether they realize it or not. Think about the last time someone truly captivated your attention. Was it because they shouted the loudest? Or was it because they said the right thing at the right moment? Or even just because they existed in a way that felt remarkable to you? That feeling, the one where your mind keeps returning to them, is no accident. It's a combination of psychology and subtle influence, a magnetic pull that can be created with awareness and understanding. And the good news is, this is not something reserved for a select few. This is something anyone can cultivate once they understand the principle behind it. This video is going to reveal that principle. But more than that, it will teach you how to use one single word, the first word that triggers connection, attraction, and even obsession. Not in a manipulative way, but in a way that makes him feel seen, valued, and deeply drawn to your presence. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to do to create that magnetic pull, and you'll understand why almost everyone else misses it completely. This isn't about tricks or cheap tactics. This is about understanding the human mind, the emotions that drive behavior, and the subtle cues that make someone irresistibly drawn to you. Before we dive in, here's a promise. If you watch this video until the end, you won't just know the word. You'll understand the psychology behind it, why it works, and how to naturally implement it in your interactions. You'll gain insight that most people spend years figuring out through trial and error. You'll see the invisible threads of connection that most overlook and learn how to use them consciously. By the time you finish watching, you will have a completely new perspective on attraction, desire, and the unseen power of words. Now let's pause for a moment and consider why this works. Human beings are driven by a deep need to feel understood and acknowledged. Every interaction carries the potential to either satisfy that need or leave it unfulfilled. Most of us don't even notice how powerful this is. When someone makes us feel truly seen, it triggers a chemical response in the brain. It creates a sense of importance, relevance, and emotional attachment. This is not a theory, it's human psychology in action. And the remarkable thing is, it doesn't take grand gestures. It doesn't require manipulation or games. Sometimes one perfectly timed word can be more potent than hours of effort or elaborate strategies. That word acts like a spark. It ignites attention, curiosity, and a longing that feels both natural and irresistible. So why haven't most people discovered it? Because attraction, in its deepest form, is counterintuitive. The world teaches us to chase, to impress, to say the things we think will make others like us. But psychology teaches the opposite. It's not about trying harder. It's about being precise, subtle, and impactful in the ways that matter most. The people who understand this have an almost magical ability to make others think about them constantly, without even realizing how they're doing it. And the best part? That power is within your reach. It doesn't require changing who you are. It doesn't require acting fake. It's about unlocking the hidden language of connection that the human mind responds to automatically. By the end of this video, you'll discover the exact word the science behind it, and the strategy to make it work in a way that feels natural, effortless, and authentic. You'll see how this one element can transform ordinary interactions into moments of deep emotional impact. And you'll realize that attraction isn't about perfection, it's about resonance. It's about connecting on a level that bypasses surface appearances and speaks directly to the core of who someone is. That's why this works. That's why it's powerful. And that's why it's completely overlooked by almost everyone else. So stay with this video, watch carefully, absorb the psychology behind what makes someone addicted, drawn, and deeply attracted to your presence. The knowledge you're about to gain is subtle, yet transformative. And the best part, once you understand it, you'll see that it's not about manipulation. It's about presence, impact, and connection. The kind of influence that comes from understanding human nature at its deepest level. By the time you reach the end, you won't just have a word, you'll have insight, you'll have clarity, and most importantly, you'll understand how to unlock a magnetic presence that leaves him thinking about you, feeling connected, and wanting more, without ever trying too hard. This is the start of something powerful, and it begins with one simple truth that almost no one knows. Have you ever felt invisible in a connection you cared deeply about? Like, no matter how much effort you put in, no matter how much attention you gave, he remained distant, uninterested, or distracted. It's a painful reality that so many people face, and it isn't a reflection of your worth. Human psychology is tricky, and the patterns that drive attention and desire are often hidden. Many women try to fill the gap with gestures, compliments, or constant communication, believing that more effort equals more attraction. But the truth is far more complex and far more empowering than that. The problem isn't effort, it's misunderstanding how the human mind reacts to presence, value, and emotional resonance. People are drawn to those who make them feel something profound, even in small moments. They are pulled toward those who spark curiosity, excitement, and emotional connection, rather than those who simply follow, explain, or plead for attention. When someone doesn't respond to your efforts, it isn't because you're not enough. It's because you haven't tapped into the invisible triggers that naturally ignite desire and attachment. That's the secret most people never learn. Think about it. Have you noticed how someone can speak a single sentence or even a single word and it lingers in your mind for hours? It creates a sense of anticipation, an emotional ripple that can't be ignored. That effect is powerful, and it isn't accidental. The human brain is wired to respond to novelty, relevance, and subtle cues that signal significance. When someone consistently feels noticed, appreciated, and understood, the mind registers that as a rare, valuable experience. And once the brain recognizes that value, it seeks it again and again, almost compulsively. Most women unknowingly approach attraction backwards. They try to impress, to fix, or to control the attention they receive. Psychology shows that these approaches often have the opposite effect. Instead of fostering connection, they create pressure, anxiety, or emotional resistance. People are subconsciously drawn to what feels natural, effortless, and meaningful. Attraction isn't about performing or proving, it's about creating an emotional environment where he feels understood, valued, and quietly compelled to engage. And that is where the real power lies. The pain of unreturned attention or lack of connection often creates a cycle of doubt. You start questioning yourself, am I doing something wrong? Am I not enough? Why doesn't he see me? These thoughts are natural, but they are also distractions from the real truth. The truth is that desire and attachment follow patterns of emotional resonance, not perfection or effort. When you understand the invisible forces at work, you realize that you hold the keys to influence in a subtle, profound way. You don't need to chase, manipulate, or overextend yourself. You only need to learn how to make moments of connection unforgettable. Have you ever observed someone who seems to draw people in effortlessly? Who makes others think about them without trying? That effect is not luck. It's intentionality informed by human psychology. They understand, consciously or unconsciously, how to create moments that linger in the mind and heart. They don't overwhelm or push, they attract. Their presence sparks curiosity and desire. They leave emotional imprints that others carry with them long after the interaction ends. That is the hidden skill most people never master. Many people feel frustrated because they believe attraction is about visibility, being seen, being noticed, being present. But psychology reveals a different truth. The most magnetic presence often comes from scarcity, subtlety, and emotional impact. The human brain is designed to crave what feels rare and meaningful. When someone consistently provides that, it creates a pull that goes far beyond surface-level attraction. It triggers deep-seated emotional responses that create attachment, longing, and focus. That is the mechanism behind lasting desire. It's also why conventional advice often fails. Telling yourself to be yourself or show interest works in theory, but in practice, it misses the nuance of emotional influence. Being magnetic isn't about acting naturally in a generic way. It's about creating emotional resonance that matters to him. It's about triggering the subtle psychological cues that make him think about you, desire you, and feel drawn toward your presence without realizing why. And it all begins with understanding how emotional significance works in the human mind. Imagine the difference between being just another face in his day versus becoming someone who occupies his thoughts, someone whose presence feels unforgettable. Most people try to achieve this with effort, timing, or charm, but real influence comes from understanding the invisible patterns that drive attention and attachment. It's not a game of chasing, it's a science of resonance. Once you understand it, your interactions stop feeling like guesswork. You gain clarity, you gain power, you gain the ability to create moments that linger, emotionally and mentally, in a way that pulls him closer without force or desperation. Many people don't realize it, but attraction isn't about what you say or do most of the time. It's about how you make him feel. Every interaction is an opportunity to leave a subtle imprint on his mind and emotions. When you create moments of emotional significance, the brain remembers. It recalls the experience, it seeks repetition. And that is the foundation of being irresistible. The frustration, the confusion, and the self-doubt dissolve when you understand this principle. You stop competing for attention. You stop trying to prove your value. Instead, you become someone who naturally draws focus, connection, and desire. The reality is simple. Human beings are wired to respond to meaningful presence. The moments that leave a lasting impact are those that create emotional resonance, not those that scream for attention. When you understand this, you realize that you don't need to perform, chase, or manipulate. You only need to align your actions and words with the way the human mind naturally responds to significance. That understanding changes everything. It transforms frustration into empowerment, doubt into clarity, and ordinary connection into magnetic attraction. It's easy to feel stuck in patterns of unreciprocated attention, but that is the illusion. The truth is that desire and attachment can be created naturally, subtly, and powerfully, without chasing, without overextending, and without losing yourself. Once you grasp this, you see that every interaction is an opportunity to spark curiosity, deepen connection, and leave him thinking about you long after the moment passes. That knowledge is liberating. That knowledge is transformative. And that knowledge is about to lead directly to the first word that makes it all possible. There is a hidden mechanism inside every human mind that controls attraction, attention, and emotional attachment. It isn't something people often think about, yet it governs nearly every interaction. The brain is constantly scanning for significance, searching for what matters, what feels rare, and what sparks genuine interest. This is why some people feel magnetic, why certain words or gestures linger in our thoughts, and why others are quickly forgotten. Understanding this mechanism is like unlocking a code that reveals why desire emerges and why attachment grows. Once you see it, your approach to connection can change completely. Every human being has an unconscious filter that decides who deserves focus. It's not based on looks, charm, or effort alone. It's about emotional impact, relevance, and resonance. When someone experiences a feeling that makes them pause, reflect, or notice something meaningful, their brain records it. This isn't random, it's a survival mechanism. Long ago, the mind had to pay attention to what mattered most, what signaled value, and what promised connection or reward. Today, that ancient wiring still operates. When someone triggers that deep emotional signal, the mind starts to return again and again, naturally craving the same experience. Attraction isn't built by constant presence or repetitive effort. It's built through selective impact. People are drawn to experiences that make them feel important, alive, and noticed on a deeper level. That is why subtle actions often outweigh grand gestures. A single phrase, a A particular tone or a carefully chosen expression can leave a stronger impression than hours of attention. The mind responds to moments that stand out, that break the ordinary pattern, and that convey value without demanding it. This is the science of emotional significance. Another important element is curiosity. Humans are naturally drawn to what they cannot fully predict or control. Mystery creates tension, which triggers desire. When someone presents themselves with authenticity but also with subtle depth, it sparks the mind to pay attention. This is why conventional advice, trying too hard, over-explaining, or seeking constant validation, usually backfires. It removes mystery, floods the interaction with predictability, and triggers resistance. The brain loses interest when there is no space for intrigue or emotional exploration. Emotional triggers are also key. When someone feels understood or truly noticed, it activates a sense of reward in the brain. This is not superficial. It goes beyond simple pleasure. It's a combination of recognition, validation, and emotional relevance. The human mind interprets these signals as rare and valuable. That is why moments of connection, even small ones, can linger for hours, days, or weeks. People don't forget experiences that make them feel deeply. And that is exactly the type of influence that leads to attachment and attraction. There is also a principle of psychological contrast. People notice differences more than constants. If someone is always available, predictable, or easy to read, the mind stops paying attention. But when someone introduces a subtle shift, a word, a pause, or an unexpected expression, it activates focus. That focus is the spark of attention, the first step toward emotional attachment. Small, intentional differences are far more powerful than constant effort because they signal presence, significance, and value without overexertion. Value perception is another hidden layer. Attraction is not earned by proving worth through effort. It is felt when the brain perceives that the interaction is meaningful. Humans are wired to seek experiences that feel rewarding on an emotional level. A single moment that communicates appreciation, relevance, or connection creates a deeper impact than repeated displays of effort. The mind unconsciously starts prioritizing that person, thinking about them, and seeking their presence without conscious control. The combination of significance, curiosity, and emotional resonance creates an invisible pull. This is why some people occupy thoughts naturally and persistently. It isn't manipulation, it's alignment with the way the human mind processes emotional input. It's understanding the triggers that make someone feel alive, seen, and valued. Those triggers are subtle but extraordinarily powerful. They work silently, yet they create consistent magnetic attention. Timing and spacing also play a crucial role. The mind notices what comes at the right moment. Overexposure dulls attention, while deliberate pauses and well-timed interactions enhance the perceived value. This is another reason why constant effort often fails. It overwhelms the unconscious filters instead of working with them. The brain craves emotional peaks, contrast, and meaningful signals. When delivered with subtlety and precision, these moments make someone think, feel, and desire more. Understanding these principles explains why conventional advice often misses the mark. Telling yourself to be attractive, charming, or funny rarely touches the deeper psychological triggers that matter most. Attraction doesn't come from trying harder. It comes from aligning with the mind's natural wiring for significance, curiosity, and emotional resonance. When you grasp this, you see that every word and gesture carries weight, and that one well-chosen word can create the spark that draws attention, triggers desire, and keeps someone thinking about you long after the moment ends. It all comes down to subtlety, timing, and emotional impact. The human mind is constantly seeking experiences that feel rare, meaningful, and rewarding. When these elements are present, attention shifts naturally. Desire emerges without effort. Curiosity fuels attachment. Emotional resonance locks in focus. This is the foundation of true magnetism, and it is entirely accessible once you understand how the mind operates. By understanding these psychological patterns, you gain a new perspective on connection. You see that influence is not about chasing, pleading, or proving worth. It is about creating moments that feel meaningful, valuable, and unforgettable. That is why the first word works so powerfully. It taps directly into these hidden triggers. It speaks to the part of the brain that craves significance, curiosity, and emotional impact. It creates attachment without pressure, desire without effort, and influence without force. This is the invisible structure behind attraction. It explains why some interactions linger and why some fade into oblivion. It explains why certain words, even a single word, can create obsession, focus, and longing. And it explains why most people fail to capture attention. They are unaware of the underlying mechanics that drive human desire. Once you see these patterns, the rest falls into place. You start understanding why subtlety, emotional resonance, and meaningful presence are far more powerful than effort, charm, or attention seeking. Most people approach attraction in the wrong way. They assume that being desirable means showing interest, flattering, or constantly proving their value. They think that effort equals attention, and that attention equals desire. But the truth is the exact opposite. The human mind is drawn to what feels rare, effortless, and emotionally resonant, not to constant pursuit or predictable gestures. The more someone tries to win attention, the more the mind unconsciously distances itself. It is a paradox. Desire grows when it is not forced, and attachment strengthens when it feels natural rather than demanded. Understanding this paradox is the first step to unlocking influence that lasts. Counterintuitive ideas often hold the deepest power because they defy common belief. Attraction is one of the clearest examples of this. Most people chase what they want, believing that proximity, effort, or charm will create connection. In reality, the mind responds strongest to subtlety, mystery, and emotional significance. The brain is wired to prioritize experiences that feel unique, valuable, and meaningful. When something breaks the ordinary flow of expectation, it triggers attention, sparks curiosity, and creates longing. This is why trying harder rarely works, while stepping back, speaking with purpose, and making small but meaningful impacts can make someone think about you constantly. There is a simple yet astonishing truth about connection. The mind craves being understood and acknowledged more than it craves attention. People may seem distracted or distant, but deep inside, they are looking for moments that validate their value. When they experience those moments, desire is triggered automatically. This is the invisible law of attraction, significance over effort. It is why one carefully chosen word can outweigh hours of effort or elaborate gestures. That single word creates an emotional imprint that resonates far deeper than anything superficial could. This idea goes against everything most people have been taught. Society tells us to act more, to say more, to perform. It praises attention-seeking and constant reassurance. But psychology shows that real influence lies in restraint, timing, and precision. The most magnetic individuals understand that less is often more. They know that a single action, word, or glance can create ripple effects that linger far longer than a stream of unremarkable effort. This is why attraction is considered counterintuitive. It rewards impact over quantity and emotional resonance over visibility. Consider this. The most unforgettable people in your life were likely not those who tried the hardest, but those whose presence left a mark. Perhaps they made you feel seen, understood, or valued in a moment you didn't expect. Maybe they said one sentence that resonated deeply, creating a memory that lingered for days. That is the principle at work. Attraction isn't a series of actions, it is the emotional imprint left behind. The brain remembers meaning, not mechanics. It responds to significance, not noise. That is why the one word we will reveal is so powerful. It aligns perfectly with the mind's natural response to connection. There is also a subtle truth about desire. It grows when it is allowed space to develop. Constant pursuit, over-explaining, or trying to fill every silence diminishes curiosity. It removes the tension that makes the mind want more. Humans are wired to respond to challenge, novelty, and significance. When someone feels fully available without boundaries, the brain registers predictability rather than value. But when interactions are carefully measured, meaningful, and emotionally resonant, the brain cannot help but return again and again. Desire grows naturally when the conditions are right. Most attempts at attraction fail because people focus on the wrong metrics. They watch for attention, validation, or responses, rather than the deeper signals of emotional engagement. The brain is not fooled by surface-level gestures. It responds to the meaning behind actions and words. A single moment that conveys value, relevance, and understanding can outweigh weeks of effort that lack depth. This is why so many relationships feel unbalanced or unsatisfying. The psychological triggers of attraction are being ignored. Understanding these triggers is the key to creating a connection that feels magnetic, effortless, and compelling. This counterintuitive approach also explains why mystery is so powerful. When the mind cannot fully predict someone's behavior, it becomes alert, curious, and focused. When emotional significance is present in a subtle and precise way, attachment begins to form without conscious effort. People start thinking about moments, anticipating interactions, and remembering words that left them feeling recognized and valued. This is how a single word, when applied correctly, can create a magnetic effect that seems almost hypnotic. It is easy to fall into the trap of believing that attraction is a result of constant effort or visibility. Most people do not see the underlying patterns of the mind, so they assume attention can be earned through persistence. But true influence comes from understanding the brain's natural responses and working with them rather than against them. It comes from delivering moments of emotional significance that resonate deeply. That is why the one word works, because it taps into these hidden mechanisms, creating attention, desire, and attachment naturally, without pressure or force. The counterintuitive lesson is clear. Attraction does not require constant pursuit. It does not require proving worth or performing for attention. It requires understanding, subtlety, and emotional impact. When these principles are applied, the mind begins to respond automatically. Desire emerges. Curiosity grows. Attention becomes focused. The connection deepens. And that one carefully chosen word becomes a silent force, powerful enough to make him think about you long after you've spoken. This is the principle that separates ordinary interactions from magnetic ones. The most compelling people in the world understand this at a deep level. They do not chase, they do not plead, and they do not perform endlessly. They create moments of significance, deliver them with precision, and allow the mind to respond naturally. That is why attraction often feels effortless when it is understood correctly. And it is also why the word you are about to learn is so transformative. It aligns perfectly with how the brain prioritizes value, curiosity, and emotional resonance. The truth is simpler than most people imagine. The word that can make him think about you, desire you, and feel irresistibly drawn to your presence is one word that activates a powerful response in the mind. It is not flashy, it is not complicated, and it is not obvious. Yet it holds the kind of influence that many spend years trying to discover. That word is you. At first, it may seem strange. You? How could a single word like that carry so much weight? But this is where psychology becomes fascinating. The human brain is wired to respond to focus and attention in ways that are subtle but profound. When someone hears or experiences a moment where their own presence, thoughts, or feelings are acknowledged, the mind experiences a surge of significance. It feels rare, important, and validating. The word you triggers this response because it directs attention in a personal, immediate way, creating a sense of relevance that is deeply magnetic. Imagine the effect of genuinely using that word in interactions. When he hears you in the right moment, it is like a mental spotlight. It signals that his thoughts, feelings, and experiences are being recognized. That recognition creates a subtle emotional resonance that the mind cannot easily ignore. Humans are naturally drawn to experiences that make them feel important, and you is the shortest, most direct way to convey that. It transforms ordinary conversation into moments of connection that linger, moments that the mind unconsciously treasures and recalls. What makes this word even more powerful is its versatility. It does not require a grand gesture or a dramatic confession. It works in simple, natural ways. A sentence that shows he is seen, an acknowledgement that highlights his perspective, or even a small comment that makes him feel valued. The word acts as a psychological anchor, linking attention, emotion, and memory. Each time it is used authentically, it strengthens the sense of presence and significance, pulling him closer emotionally without pressure or force. The brain's response to this word is deeply rooted in human psychology. The mind constantly scans for relevance, what matters, what deserves attention, and what contributes to understanding of oneself and others. When someone uses you in a meaningful way, it signals relevance. It conveys that the person speaking is attuned, observant, and connected to his world. That signal is powerful because it bypasses surface-level attraction and taps directly into the emotional circuitry that drives focus, desire, and attachment. The result is a magnetic pull that feels natural, compelling, and almost irresistible. Beyond attention, the word you creates a sense of emotional intimacy. When the mind hears itself reflected in someone else's words, it experiences recognition, validation, and inclusion. That combination triggers subtle emotional responses that deepen attachment. The brain interprets this as significance, and significance drives desire. Unlike effort, charm, or charm alone, this method creates a foundation for lasting attraction because it aligns with innate human needs. It is not about controlling or manipulating. It is about creating moments that feel meaningful, memorable, and uniquely personal. There is another layer to why this word is so effective. It creates mental repetition. The mind tends to replay moments that feel emotionally significant. When you is used authentically, it produces just enough impact to be memorable, yet not so much that it overwhelms. The brain recalls the experience and unconsciously integrates it, which strengthens curiosity, longing, and focus. Over time, these subtle imprints build an ongoing presence in his thoughts. He begins returning to the memory of the moment, imagining the interaction, and thinking about the person who made him feel seen. This is the invisible mechanism behind the addictive quality of the word. The word also works because it satisfies a deep human need, the need to be acknowledged without having to demand it. Many people are surrounded by attention that feels transactional, forced, or superficial. When someone genuinely makes you the focus, it feels different. It feels rare. It feels authentic. That rarity triggers the brain's reward system, reinforcing attention and desire. Unlike conventional attraction techniques, this word doesn't chase, pressure, or overwhelm. It creates a pull because it delivers value that the mind naturally seeks and craves. Using you strategically transforms ordinary interaction into something extraordinary. It can be woven into conversation effortlessly, whether in speech, text, or even subtle gestures that highlight presence and significance. Each time it is applied with authenticity, it strengthens the connection, deepens emotional impact, and creates subtle but undeniable influence. That is the essence of magnetism, creating meaningful moments that the mind unconsciously prioritizes and remembers. The power of this word is heightened when paired with awareness. It is not about repeating it randomly or superficially. The mind detects inauthenticity immediately. The word must be embedded in sincerity, observation, and emotional alignment. When done correctly, the effect is transformative. He begins to associate your presence with recognition, validation, and relevance. He begins seeking moments where he can experience the same feeling again. Desire, focus, and attachment grow naturally because the interaction aligns with deep psychological wiring. Ultimately, the simplicity of this word is its genius. Most people search for elaborate methods, techniques, or strategies to capture attention. They overlook the elegance of authenticity, relevance, and emotional significance. You works because it is personal, precise, and psychologically aligned. It is a bridge between attention and emotion, a shortcut to creating memorable magnetic connection that feels effortless yet profoundly effective. The brain responds without conscious effort, and attraction deepens naturally over time. Every interaction where this word is used becomes a chance to leave a lasting imprint. It turns casual communication into meaningful moments. It transforms ordinary encounters into memorable experiences. And it demonstrates a principle that is often ignored. True influence is rooted in subtlety, emotional resonance, and recognition. That is why one word can hold more power than hours of effort, hundreds of gestures, or elaborate strategies. It taps into the way the human mind prioritizes significance, curiosity, and emotional reward. The word you is not just a word, it is a tool of magnetic influence. It is the key that transforms ordinary interactions into unforgettable connections. It triggers attention, sparks desire, and deepens attachment naturally. And when used thoughtfully, it can make someone think about you, feel drawn to you, and experience a level of connection that feels rare and profound. The power of a single word becomes astonishing when you understand how the human mind responds. You is not just a pronoun, It is a direct pathway to the emotional core of attention, focus, and attachment. The mind craves recognition and relevance, and use signals both in the most concise and potent way. When someone feels noticed on a personal level, their brain registers it as meaningful and significant. That recognition creates an emotional resonance that goes far deeper than surface-level attraction. It is subtle, almost invisible, yet profoundly influential. Every interaction carries an opportunity to leave a psychological imprint, and this word is the most effective tool for creating one. When used genuinely, it communicates that the person matters, that their presence is observed, and that their thoughts and experiences are important. This triggers the brain's reward system, releasing a sense of satisfaction and connection. Over time, repeated experiences like this build emotional attachment because the brain starts associating the person who uses the word with moments of significance, understanding, and value. That association is magnetic. Another reason the word is so effective is that it satisfies a deeply rooted human need for validation without effort. Most attention feels transactional or forced, but recognition that feels organic and meaningful sparks curiosity, longing, and focus. The mind unconsciously interprets these interactions as rare and rewarding. That is why simple acknowledgement using you can create a pull that feels almost irresistible. Desire is not built through chasing or impressing. It grows when the mind perceives significance and authenticity. Emotional memory plays a crucial role in this process. The brain retains experiences that have emotional weight far more than neutral events. When use applied thoughtfully, it embeds a subtle emotional marker in the mind. That marker is recalled repeatedly, even when no interaction is happening. The effect is cumulative. Each use strengthens the connection, deepens desire, and increases the sense of attachment. Over time, the person begins thinking about these moments naturally, forming a mental loop that reinforces attraction without conscious effort. This word also enhances the perception of personal relevance. Humans are wired to notice what directly impacts them or reflects their importance. A sentence, comment, or gesture that highlights you makes the brain focus on the experience more than it would otherwise. This focus strengthens memory, increases curiosity, and creates a mental presence that lingers. Unlike conventional methods that rely on effort or visibility, this approach works because it aligns with the way the brain naturally filters and prioritizes information. Attention is directed where it feels meaningful, and attachment grows from that focus. Psychology also shows that humans are drawn to experiences that feel scarce and emotionally significant. Overexposure reduces interest, while subtlety and precision amplify it. The word "you" works because it is delivered in a way that highlights importance without overwhelming. Each mention carries meaning, creating a rhythm of emotional peaks that the brain remembers and craves. The effect is invisible, yet undeniable, a magnetic presence that occupies attention and thought. Curiosity is another powerful mechanism behind the effectiveness of this word. When someone is acknowledged in a meaningful way, it sparks an interest to explore more of the interaction, to see what else may resonate. The mind begins to anticipate future moments of connection, creating a sense of longing and mental engagement. Unlike overt attempts to capture attention, this method works quietly, subtly, and profoundly. Curiosity and desire are built over time, naturally and effortlessly, as a result of emotional significance. The principle of emotional contrast also explains why this word is so potent. The human brain notices differences more than constant repetition. Most interactions feel predictable, but a well-timed acknowledgement using "you" stands out because it breaks the ordinary pattern. This creates focus, engagement, and memory retention. The brain interprets these moments as unique, valuable, and rewarding, which strengthens attraction. It is the contrast between ordinary and emotionally resonant interaction that makes this word so powerful. One of the most fascinating aspects is how it works without forcing effort or expectation. Attraction does not grow when someone feels pressured, manipulated, or overwhelmed. The word "you" allows influence to happen subtly, without demand. It shifts the dynamic from chasing to magnetic pull, where attention and desire are drawn naturally. The mind interprets this as authenticity, relevance, and value, all of which are the most compelling factors in human connection. Finally, the psychological mechanism behind this word is rooted in the brain's need for emotional rewards. Each acknowledgement of significance triggers feelings of pleasure, recognition, and value. Over time, these small emotional rewards accumulate, creating a mental and emotional pattern that strengthens attachment and focus. What begins as a subtle influence gradually grows into a compelling presence that is difficult to ignore. It is the silent engine behind fascination, attention, and desire. When you understand this, it becomes clear why one simple word can achieve what months of effort, charm, or attention cannot. It works because it aligns perfectly with the way the human mind prioritizes attention, rewards emotional significance, and responds to relevance. It is not a trick or manipulation, it is understanding the natural wiring of desire and connection and using it consciously. That is why this word is transformative. It taps into mechanisms that operate beneath awareness, creating a magnetic pull that feels effortless yet profoundly powerful. Using the word you is not about repeating it mindlessly or forcing it into every sentence. Its power lies in the way it is delivered, genuine, precise, and meaningful. Every time it is applied thoughtfully, it signals attention, recognition, and significance. This transforms ordinary conversation into moments that leave an emotional imprint, moments that the mind naturally recalls and cherishes. The key is to make each use intentional so that it resonates on a deeper level rather than just filling space. The first step is observation. Notice the small details that make him unique, his perspective, experiences, and personality. When a comment or acknowledgement reflects that understanding, the word you becomes more than a pronoun. It becomes a bridge to emotional connection. For example, acknowledging something he said or did in a way that highlights his value communicates recognition and significance. The brain responds to that kind of attention instinctively, and it triggers curiosity, attachment, and desire. Timing is another crucial factor. The word has the greatest effect when it is used in moments that feel natural and impactful. It can be a pause in conversation, a thoughtful response, or a comment that highlights relevance. Overuse diminishes the effect because the brain begins to interpret it as ordinary. Subtlety ensures that each use carries weight, creating peaks of emotional resonance that the mind remembers. When applied with care, it creates a rhythm of attention and connection that strengthens over time. Tone also amplifies the word's effect. It is not about saying it loudly or dramatically. The brain responds to authenticity, and the subtler the delivery, the more powerful the impact. A calm, sincere, or reflective tone conveys emotional depth and presence, signaling that the focus on him is genuine. This creates a feeling of being truly seen, and that feeling is addictive. It pulls him in emotionally, without any need for grand gestures or elaborate explanations. One of the most effective ways to use the word is in acknowledgement of actions or qualities that are meaningful to him. Highlight something that others might overlook. When he feels recognized for what truly matters to him, the brain associates the interaction with significance and emotional reward. That association grows stronger with each thoughtful use. The repetition is not in the word itself, but in the consistent attention to meaningful details. This builds attachment and keeps him mentally engaged. The word can also be used to spark curiosity and anticipation. By directing focus to him in a way that creates intrigue or emotional impact, it encourages the mind to revisit the moment and imagine future interactions. For instance, referencing something he did, said, or felt in a meaningful way creates a subtle loop of attention and desire. The mind begins to anticipate these moments and seek them out naturally, creating a magnetic pull that feels effortless yet irresistible. Emotional alignment is critical. The word works best when paired with authenticity and empathy. It should reflect genuine understanding, appreciation, or insight into his perspective. The brain instantly recognizes when recognition is sincere, and that triggers positive emotional responses that reinforce attachment. The combination of personal relevance, emotional depth, and thoughtful delivery transforms you from a simple word into a tool of magnetic influence. Context also matters. The word should be integrated into meaningful interactions rather than forced into superficial conversation. It works when it highlights connection, understanding, or relevance. For example, noticing something unique about his thoughts, actions, or feelings, and reflecting that through you demonstrates attention that feels rare and valuable. The mind responds naturally to this, strengthening both desire and engagement. Ordinary interactions become memorable because they carry emotional significance. Consistency without overuse is another key principle. The effect of this word compounds over time when applied thoughtfully. Repeated exposure in moments that feel meaningful creates a pattern in the mind, linking your presence with attention, relevance, and emotional reward. This builds a sense of anticipation and focus, and it fosters attachment organically. It is not the frequency of use that matters, but the quality and significance of each use. Finally, the word encourages presence. When attention is focused meaningfully on him, it demonstrates awareness and connection. This alone is magnetic. The brain interprets genuine focus as value, and desire grows as a result. It is not manipulation or coercion. It is a natural alignment with the way the human mind processes significance, recognition, and emotional engagement. Mastery of this subtle approach transforms ordinary interactions into moments that are unforgettable and magnetic. By understanding and applying these principles, every interaction becomes an opportunity to create impact. Each thoughtful use of you reinforces attention, sparks emotional resonance, and strengthens attachment. Over time, it builds a pattern where he begins to associate presence, recognition, and value with you naturally. Attraction becomes effortless because it is aligned with deep psychological mechanisms, rather than relying on external effort or performance. In practice, using the word thoughtfully allows influence to happen quietly and powerfully. It transforms ordinary moments into emotionally significant experiences. It deepens connection, sparks curiosity, and keeps him mentally and emotionally engaged. The brain naturally prioritizes experiences that feel meaningful, and the word you taps directly into that wiring. It is simple, yet it carries extraordinary impact. When applied with observation, timing, tone, emotional alignment, and consistency, this single word creates a magnetic effect that grows over time. Desire is reinforced, attention is sustained, and emotional attachment strengthens. It is a subtle, natural, and psychologically powerful tool that makes him think about you, value your presence, and feel drawn in ways that feel effortless, yet profoundly impactful. When the word you is used with awareness and sincerity, the emotional effects are profound. It creates a sense of being truly seen, a feeling that is rare in most interactions. Humans crave acknowledgement on a deep level, and when someone highlights their presence, thoughts, or actions in a meaningful way, it triggers a cascade of positive emotions. The feeling that emerges is one of importance, relevance, and validation. It is subtle, yet unforgettable, planting a seed that grows stronger over time. The brain reacts to these moments with a combination of focus and emotional reward. Each time he experiences recognition through you, his mind interprets it as meaningful. This creates a sense of connection that is almost addictive because it fulfills a core psychological need to feel understood and appreciated without having to demand it. The emotional impact is compounded by the fact that it feels natural, effortless, and authentic. This is why one well-placed word can create a far deeper effect than constant attention or grand gestures ever could. A remarkable aspect of this effect is the sense of closeness it produces. When someone feels genuinely acknowledged, the mind registers intimacy. That intimacy is not physical, it is emotional and mental. He begins to associate your presence with comfort, understanding, and value. Over time, this association strengthens attachment and makes interactions feel more significant. Moments that incorporate the word you carry weight in his memory, creating a pattern where he increasingly anticipates connection and engagement. The emotional resonance of this word also sparks curiosity. When attention is given in a meaningful, subtle way, the brain wants more. It begins to focus on the person delivering that acknowledgement, replaying interactions and reflecting on their significance. This curiosity is not forced. It arises naturally from the emotional impact of feeling seen and valued. It makes him think, reflect, and imagine future moments where that same feeling can occur again. This mental loop is the foundation of ongoing desire and attraction. Another effect is the creation of longing. When emotional significance is delivered thoughtfully, it leaves an imprint that the mind continues to revisit. The sense of anticipation for future interactions grows, and with it, a quiet pull toward connection. The word you acts as a catalyst, creating small, meaningful moments that accumulate into a magnetic presence. Unlike attention-seeking behaviors that can feel overwhelming, this approach produces a subtle, enduring desire that is both psychological and emotional. It also builds a sense of emotional security. Humans naturally gravitate toward people who make them feel understood and valued without judgment or pressure. Using you in authentic ways signals that his thoughts and feelings matter, which strengthens trust and comfort. These emotions reinforce attachment, making him feel not just attracted, but safe, appreciated, and drawn toward your presence. This sense of security amplifies desire because the mind links positive emotions with ongoing engagement. The emotional impact extends beyond moments of interaction. When the brain receives meaningful acknowledgement, it continues to process and replay the experience, creating an ongoing mental connection. Even when he is not present, he may find himself thinking about the interaction, reflecting on what was said, and replaying the subtle recognition he felt. Over time, this repeated mental focus creates a deep psychological attachment where thoughts naturally return to the person who created those meaningful moments. A powerful dimension of this effect is its subtlety. The emotional response does not feel forced or manufactured. It arises naturally from recognition, relevance, and presence. Unlike strategies that rely on performance or external validation, this method taps directly into the psychological wiring that governs attention and desire. The result is a connection that feels effortless, yet deeply compelling, leaving him emotionally engaged without any sense of pressure or obligation. The word also reinforces a sense of significance. Humans crave experiences that make them feel important and moments that highlight this trigger desire. Each thoughtful use of you subtly signals that he matters, that his thoughts and actions are noticed, and that his presence is valued. This consistent reinforcement builds an emotional framework where connection, attraction, and attention grow naturally. It is an organic, self-reinforcing process that strengthens with each meaningful interaction. Finally, the emotional impact creates a lasting impression. Moments of recognition, when applied with sincerity and precision, become memorable. They linger in the mind, inspiring reflection, curiosity, and desire. Over time, the effect multiplies, creating a pattern of mental and emotional engagement that draws him closer. The combination of significance, emotional resonance, and anticipation creates a magnetic presence that feels natural yet profoundly influential. By understanding and applying these principles, every interaction can produce emotional effects that deepen connection. Recognition becomes a tool of influence, attraction grows organically, and attention is sustained without force.